Let's go to the other side of the Battle of Alberta, Chad. The Calgary Flames, who are hanging around. They've won 4 in a row. Big overtime win last night over the Arizona Coyotes. Beautiful goal in overtime by Yegor Sharangovich. And what a great fit it's been for Sharangovich and the Calgary Flames. What a year Blake Coleman is having as well. 20 goals. He's got 38 points and a plus 24. And, I was kind of laughing a little bit to myself, looking at some Calgary stats. And I'm just like, at least one guy on a long-term deal is performing well. And I think you know what I mean when I say that, there may be a guy making $10.5 million who's not living up to that deal and may never live up to that deal. So, Sharangovich, Coleman, they've been great. Connor Zary, what a great story he's been as well. Great young player. Jacob Markstrom, too. Really big factor. He has been a lot better this season for the Flames. So one of the more interesting teams to follow, man. They've got the pending UFAs, obviously, and they've got some decisions to make there. But it's nice to see Calgary kind of get back into the race here.
Yeah, I mean, like you just look quick at some of their surface level numbers, right? Like 47 points in 44 games. They have a goal differential of 0, 139 for, 139 against. And when you dig into the advanced numbers, all of that kind of checks out. Like expected goals for and expected goals against, like they're around middle of the pack. And like they're getting decent goaltending. They're getting decent finishing. It's just, they're kind of a ho-hum team with some contracts that make it sort of tough to get much better unless those guys in particular get better. So I think Calgary right now in the number 5 spot kind of checks out. It's to be determined, but I don't know if they're better than this. I don't know if they're worse than this. I think this is kind of just what they are. And, they could potentially still make the playoffs. Like there's no question there. They're only 2 points behind the Oilers and they're only 3 points behind the LA Kings. So playoffs are not out of the question. And this team, like that would mean a lot to them to make the playoffs. And, because maybe they're a team who just gets in and they're able to elevate their game. Like we've seen a lot of teams who are able to do that, right? Especially teams with solid defense cores. And that's what they have. It'll be really interesting to see what they do at the deadline still. But like we picked them to finish in 6th, currently in 5th, tied with the Seattle Kraken. So I guess technically you could say maybe like they're 5th or 6th. It's kind of like where we expected them to be. So, I don't have much more to say on Calgary. I'll let you chime in if you want, but also we should talk about Seattle, who's kind of in a similar position as well.
Yeah, definitely. The last thing I'll say about the Flames, if you're Craig Conroy, I just think is it worth making the playoffs this year just to be out in the first round when you can maximize your return on a couple of these UFAs, whether it's Lindholm, Hanifin, Tanev, whoever. Yeah. And really, really look towards the future a little bit. And I think if you deal 1 or 2 of those guys, chances are you could still be competitive enough to maybe squeak in a wild card spot, kind of like the Nashville Predators last year. They sold off a bit and then they were still competitive right till the end. I don't know. It's something that I heard Haley Salvian of The Athletic bring up today, and I thought it was a really, really good point by her.
Well, I think maximizing your returns for, guys like Tanev, Lindholm, if they decide that they aren't going to re-sign in Calgary, you kind of don't have an option. Like you said, this team kind of is what it is. And is it really worth it to squeak into the playoffs and, just to be bounced in the first round and not really have a roster that stacks up to other teams in the West? They could potentially play Vegas or Vancouver in the first round. And, think about Vegas playing Calgary. They would stomp them. It wouldn't even be close. Unless Markstrom is super hot and the stars on Calgary figure it out. So that's what I'm saying. Like, maybe they could elevate, but it just seems like, given the contract scenario right now with all of these guys who are on expiring deals, it might make sense to kind of capitalize, do a 2-year sort of retool. You've still got those players on big contracts, but then you've still got younger players coming up who are going to contribute. You've got your goalie of the future already. You only need a couple more, big pieces to hit. And then you've got not just a competitive team, but a really good one. So maybe that's the direction. I think that's what I would do personally. I'm not exactly sure what Conroy and company want to do. And that's why we say, like, it'll be interesting to see what they do at the deadline.